Welcome. This is episode 8 of the Asking You Shall Receive podcast. We're going to jump right in here. We got a ton of knowledge and a ton of value, and honestly, a very, very touching personal story. So, without further ado, I want to welcome our guest, Mr. Bishoi Khella. Please feel free to introduce yourself and let's get into it.
What's up, man? I'm Bishoi, just a regular dude who ended up losing a shit ton of weight, and yeah, just out here trying to inspire as many people as possible, man.
Yeah, man. We'll go into your entrepreneurship journey, but I don't want to overlook the humble intro, man. I really want to dive into this journey that you had because it was a little more than I want to kind of tighten down on the abs for the summer and a little more than that. So let's just jump right in and let's talk about this journey, man.
Yeah, man. So back in like 2021, COVID, we were already a year into the whole pandemic, and everything was locked down, and I ended up going on a trip with with a bunch of my friends to Mexico, and like the resort was completely empty, like no one was there. And so, when you're at a resort, everyone's like just there to turn up, party, have fun, and it's like a chill vibe. You're not really doing any crazy, hectic physical work, right? But then since no one was there to like really drink with, party with, they ended up just doing a bunch of other stuff like ATVing, hikes, exploring the city and all that stuff. And bro, like it was just a struggle. Like I was missing out on so many things. Like these guys were so amped about doing a bunch of stuff, and I was just sitting
Mm,
there like stressing about every little thing. Like, damn, how long? Like things that normal people don't even have to think about, man. Like, how long is this gonna take? Am I gonna be able to do this walk? How are they gonna go all day? Like, just
mm,
the most irrelevant things that a person shouldn't have to think of, especially on vacation. And that was kind of the wake up call I had. Like when I got back, I was like, man, you couldn't even enjoy that vacation. Like it was supposed to be some time off. You came back feeling shitty. And then I was like, man, it's been a year into COVID, and this shit's gonna end. Everything's gonna be over. Everyone's gonna be back together. Everyone's gonna be chilling, enjoying their life. And I will have nothing to show for the last year that I had off, when you're supposedly you're not chilling with as many people. You should have had more time to actually work on yourself, but I wasn't actually using that. And so, that's kind of what sparked the whole journey. And then one of my friends introduced me to a program called 75 Hard. I'll forever be grateful for that guy, man. My boy Mike, he always like he stuck by me, and he kept pushing me to like keep starting on like, or start, because he had already done the program back in December of the same year. And he's like, mentally, it just completely changed his outlook on like mental toughness and how to persevere and get through difficult stuff. And so he recommended it, and he actually redid it with me in February or March. We started in March we got back from that trip. And then after those 75 days, man, it was all she wrote. We just kept going for another 2 years, and here we are now.
man. It's a key point that we touch on here in the podcast is making sure we're surrounding ourselves with some good individuals to be around. And it's not really something you kind of see often in today's world at all, where you can have friends that really push you to become better versions of yourself. It's almost more common to find friends that'll get to go out more often, go drink more often, drugs more often, things like that, where the common habits among friends are, just shared activities that might not be for the benefit of long-term growth and things like that. But I really want to jump in. Where were you kind of at, like weight-wise and before the pandemic, in terms of like physically, mentally, and emotionally before you really did this 75 hard journey? Because I'm sure there's a extremely sharp contrast from start to finish.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because it's a lot of people ask like, "Yo, how'd you put on so much muscle in such little time?" And I'm getting asked if I'm on steroids and stuff. It's just deceiving, because I used to be heavy into bodybuilding for like 5 years. So from about 16 to about like 22, 23, until I started my business, I was like living, breathing gym like every day. I was like deadlifting 6 plates, like squats, like I was into that life. And then as soon as I started my business at 22, 23, my last semester of school, just started missing workouts, started missing here and there, eating out. Now I had money, like it was like we got very blessed. We saw rapid success on the first couple months. And so I went from being a guy who, was couldn't eat out every single meal. Like I was like I had to ration my money, especially as a broke college student. to like just having a ton of access to money. And so I was eating out every single meal. I started Uber Eating stuff every single day. I stopped, cooking a single meal at home. And everything I did was just like pushing my body into the complete opposite direction because I was so focused on growing this business. At least that's what I told myself. Like anytime I spent cooking or anytime I spent at the gym was money out of my pocket because it was it was time I could have been spending to build my money or build the empire, build the company. And so that's when it started spiraling. And I think, man, in just about a year alone, I gained like probably 120 pounds the first year
Wow.
in business. Like it was like, for me, man, I'm like, I'm on the both sides of the extreme. Like, yo, if I'm in it, I'm 100% in it. If I'm out, I'm out. Like I'm not
Mm.
half-assing. I can't work out 3 days a week or 4 days a week. Like I'm full ass or I'm not in it at all. So that's kind of how I treated it. And so, yeah, man, I quickly ballooned up to 350 pounds at my peak. At least that's what I think my peak was. I don't know because I would avoid the scale like the plague, bro. Like I would never hop
Mm.
on the scale. So the only time I actually know that I hit 350 was this one time I was at the doctor's office for this thing that I thought was a massive stroke or a heart attack, and it just turned out to be a first ever panic attack. But at the time, like I thought I was dying. So I ended up going to the hospital and they did a bunch of tests and, it turned out to be nothing, but it was just like a super scary situation. And believe it or not, man, that didn't even change anything for me. Like I went back,
Wow.
like I was motivated for 2 weeks. I hit the gym and then I went on a business trip to China, came back 3 weeks later and just continued on to the shitty spiral for another 4 years until 2021 when I took it in the other direction.
Mm. And I mean, like through all of this, between just trying to get your business to where you want it to be, how were things kind of upstairs, like mentally and emotionally, where the food's just kind of coming in and I'm sure you're starting to feel either more fatigued or things like that. Like you were saying on your trip, you start to realize, some common things that kind of go over most people's heads were thoughts that you really kind of had to consider and realize.
Yeah, man, mentally, like now that I have a clear, clear conscious, clear head, I can see like back then, man, it's like I was living with a cloud always over my head. Like it
Mm.
was a constant like fog in my brain where I wasn't operating 100%, like nowhere near 100%. And so, it just, I would be sleeping most of the day. Cause when you eat like a big shitty meal, you get you get like very fatigued and you end up falling asleep. Bro, I was doing that like 3 times a day, but those were like 2,000 calorie meals, like full meals. And then after I'd eat, I'd nap for a day for an hour or two. Now I barely even nap. And it's like I was just known as the bear, bro. I would eat and then just K and then eat and just K and like work on my laptop here and there. Like it was just such a shitty life. I didn't even get to do much other than like party and go out to like the clubs and stuff like that. Like I wasn't doing anything that is considered fun, like like just going on walks, going on nature, like going on nature walks and stuff. And I was supposedly here owning some nature company, some outdoors company, and I haven't been in the outdoors in like 5 years, bro. So it was just like
Mm.
kind of like just living a lie.
But yeah, man, to really touch on that, I'm sure your habits kind of started to shift as you really got this 75 hard program and also just common, I guess, mindsets and beliefs I guess you had on, is this it for me in my life? Is this the max capacity of my life? So just kind of touch on, working through that as you actually got to this program and really said things need to change.
Yeah, man, that's a great thing about the program is a lot of people just set out to be like, I'm gonna work out tomorrow or I'm gonna work out for the next week. But the thing with this program is it was like very structured. You had to do the same tasks every day for 75 straight days. For those of you who don't know, it's two 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside, rain, shine, whatever it is, you got to do it. They can be back to back. Drink a gallon of water a day, no alcohol, no cheat meals, and read 10 pages of a self-development book and take a progress picture. So those are the tasks of the thing. Is the program made by Andy Frisella. And so that just gave me the structure I needed to build the momentum to carry on for the next 2 years. Because without momentum, man, we're absolutely fucked. Like you can do what you can for as long as you can, but if you can't build enough momentum to keep pushing you forward, it's still a conscious thing that you have to constantly keep thinking about. And the more things that you have to think about, the more mental calories it takes to sustain those things. And so, now, like, in contrast to what I am now, like, I don't even have to think about what most people would consider such a crazy lifestyle, because I've been doing it every single day for the better half of 2 years. And so I don't even have to think about waking up and running. I do that every single day. I don't have to think about coming in, taking my cold shower, or working between these hours. Like, everything's on pure autopilot in the right direction. I say this all the time, man. It goes the other way as well. If you continuously do things that are against what you want to do, and you build momentum in the opposite direction, that will become on autopilot. That's how I got to 5 years of me eating like shit, not exercising, doing the exact same lifestyle without even thinking about it. And not to be rambling, but when you first start slipping off, like, let's say you had a good routine and you first start slipping off, the first day you're kind of guilty. The second day the guilt starts fading away over time.
Mm.
And as time passes, you lose all sense of guilt, and that thing just gets keep pushed in a deeper box, in your brain, until you stop thinking about it altogether. And once you stop thinking about it altogether, you're fucked, because you're not even consciously aware of the habits that you're doing anymore. It's just you're on pure autopilot in the wrong direction, heading for a mountain, waiting for it to crash, which is eventually you're just going to die at that point, like, if you can't pull yourself back.
Yeah, man. I think that's like probably one of the most key points about this, is because there's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of 6 week get six pack abs and all that stuff. But there's really no other program than 75 Hard that I've seen that really naturally just shifts your entire being. And in the same time, it really implements certain things where, you can be actually confident in yourself because you have accountability within yourself to say, I can actually trust myself now, rather than just working out for a week or week and a half and then being off for 2 months and back with the week and a half, things like that.
Yeah, I agree.
But I know for you, I'm sure there was a transition, not only just in physical health, but in every area of life, whether it was business, family, just everything. And how did that kind of like just breathe out into every other area of life?
Yeah, so that's a great point, because by taking care of your physical health, especially coming from a guy who was 350 pounds, where that is probably the most difficult thing for me to do at that time. And so every day I kept the promise I made to myself was another notch, another win in my brain, that, like, I committed to this and I did it. And so by the end of the 75 days, by the end of the 2 years, anything that I said I would get done will get done, not just with fitness, but it applies to my business. It applies to my family. It applies to any relationship I have. Because if I said, Mom and Dad, I'm coming to dinner today, and I don't come home to dinner today, it might seem insignificant for that specific moment. But then what happens internally in your brain is you're like, okay, I made a promise, I didn't stick to it. What else am I going to break in the future? And so as you continuously break promises to yourself or to other people, you stop losing all faith, all trust in your own word. And once you do that, you're kind of screwed, because anytime you set out to do anything, there's that doubt in your head now that you're like, buddy, you're full of shit. Like, you've said you're going to do this for the last 15 times, and look what happened. You stop believing in anything you say. And if you stop believing in what you say, how do you expect other people to believe what you're saying? And so, like, that is what the biggest takeaway I got from 75 Hard is, like, I've committed to 75 straight days of this program. And by doing that, it involves you saying no to a ton of stuff, especially when you're starting out, because when you're starting out, you're not on autopilot yet. So your boys link you up, like, yo, let's go for a drink. Nah, bro, I can't. Okay, let's go chill out. Let's go chill. Let's just kick back, watch a movie. I can't, bro. I still got to do my reading. And that continuously spirals into you sticking to your promise over everything else. And then, that just creates an upward spiral in the right direction.
Yeah, and I don't want to forget this out, but you didn't just do this once. You went ahead and did this 3 times, man. And I got to give you the utmost respect and credit for that. I do want you to touch on what some of those toughest moments were, because I'm sure there were some days, mentally you were probably fatigued, physically you were probably like, shit, my body needs a day off, or
Mhm.
almost finding ways to give yourself a reason to just skip out, but
Mhm.
still being determined enough to say no, like, I'm going to go through with this and I'm going to see this to the end.
Yeah, so I had a couple things that kind of helped me along my journey is because when I started, I was doing it with three other people, and so that's
Mm,
just the competitive side of me is like, bro, I'm not gonna be the one that bitches out while all these guys are still out there grinding, regardless of if they're in a better position to do it than me. We all said we were gonna do it. I'm not gonna be the one. So we had like an accountability group, which definitely helped a lot. The other thing is, man, like at the time, I was doing whatever it takes to look at examples of people who have done the impossible. And I find a lot of people have a tough time doing this because when you're comparing yourself to people, they're comparing themselves to like Jim from The Office, Susie from Pilates. Like they're not comparing themselves to the greats. And by comparison, and I know everyone says like, "Yo, you shouldn't compare yourself." I don't mean compare yourself as in like, "Yo, I want what they have. Why was I dealt a shitty hand in life?" I mean in the sense of like these guys have done incredibly phenomenal things that most people would think are completely impossible, and they still managed to get it. And so at the time, my first couple books that I was reading on the 75 Hard program were, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins and all those crazy books. And bro, this actually helped a lot. So at the time, there's a guy named Iron Cowboy James. I don't know if you know him, but he's a guy who did 100 back-to-back triathlons in 100 days. So every single
mm,
day he'd wake up and he'd do his run, his bike, and his swim. And that would take 16 hours a day. And I got so lucky that when I started 75 Hard, he was doing it at the same time. So I followed him on Instagram, watched all his stories. He would post the whole day of him going through it. And I'm like, bro, this guy is doing a full ass triathlon every single day for 100 days. I can't run around a track for 45 minutes. So, like,
mm,
the people I just started looking at shifted from comparing or setting the standard. I don't want to say comparing, setting the standard of who I was trying to become rather than it being people that are just average who don't do average shit. I compared myself to the greats and I'm saying, look how crazy they're doing. I could go run, I could go walk, I could do this workout because other people have done it. And so especially with the run, man. Like when I first started, I was 350 pounds. Like a run wasn't a run for me. It was like I would run for 2 minutes and like that was already at a super slow pace. I'd walk for a bit until I caught my breath and then I'd pick it back up until the 45 minutes were done. And as time went on, I kept pushing that up until I ran the full 45 minutes. And then I worked on my pace and then I pushed the distance even further. And like last year, I ran a full marathon compare like it's something I couldn't even imagine doing. I would take Ubers to 10-minute walk places, like to restaurants, to the point where
mm.
my boys would leave. We'd all be chilling in the house. My boys would leave. They're like, fuck it, we're walking. We're not taking no Uber for a 10-minute walk. I would wait, call the Uber. They'd get there, sit down, and I was still like coming later by vehicle, and they walked. So it's like going from that to being able to run a marathon is something I would have never imagined. And it's just slow steps, day by day, consistent action until you get to the end.
Mm. That last nugget there, man, that's really the difference. And that's something I'm really trying to help a lot of people our age realize is this is the process. And this is really what it's all about, because most of us, we want to go through the journey you went on, but we want to get that done in a week or in a month or honestly in a day and a half, depending on most people's mental tolerance for, either pain or just getting things done on a daily basis that require some sort of discipline and some sort of consistency. But like you said, this shift allowed you to really realize many things that you honestly didn't think that were possible. And Andy says it himself, is and he reiterates it almost consistently on almost every episode. He says, I am just like you. I am not shit. I'm not here saying I'm born of a different blood or from a different lineage or things like that. I am a normal human being who just chose to do the things that need to be done. And at the end of the day, this is really what it comes down to. I know you have this business, and this pretty much, it's interesting because you're saying your positioning of getting to that point in terms of weight was due to wanting to be so locked in on the business. Did your business like become better because you started to take care of your physical health and go on this journey, or did you feel like you faded compared to where you were?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, we're down in sales right now, but it's not a result of like lack of effort on the business. We're
Mm,
actually working harder than ever to succeed. It's just a change in the market of how we were running the business, and now it's actually comes full circle because we were running the business back then based on conversion hacks and little gimmicks that will get you the sale as quick as possible, similar to how I
mm,
was running my life. And so the way we were running our business, we were not building a brand whatsoever. We were trying to just flip product, make money, and that's it. There was no soul to it, no lifeline, no blood to the no soul to the company whatsoever.
mm,
And so once I don't want to get too technical, but once the whole iOS update came out and the privacy issues came out and they blocked a bunch of stuff, and now we don't have as visibility into the ads or and as much knowledge of the people that we're marketing to anymore. The ads just stop performing, and now you're kind of like left in the dust because you didn't even build an asset on the back end. All you did was pour money into a Facebook campaign or an
mm.
Instagram campaign, and you thought you were some big marketer influence or like some big time marketer, when in reality, bro, you just learned how to operate a piece of software. You were not doing real marketing, you were not doing real branding. And so there's a lot of business that are going to die because of that. Like for at least people I know, everyone and their mother started a whole drop ship site in the e-commerce boom because it was so easy. You toss a product up, you'd get it from China, you'd toss a product up, you'd put up ads saying shop now, and people would buy it because the targeting was so there, the market wasn't as saturated. As more and more people joined, as the targeting became worse, as things just shifted to how you should be running a real company, and if you weren't, you got the rug pulled out from under you. And so it's funny because now we're not so focused on the revenue side. Once you pull, especially if you've been operating your business on conversion hacks, people are expecting fake sales where you have $200 off or 95% off. People expect that. You've built your audience based on a bargain bin. And so
Mm.
once you pull that rug and be like, enough of this, we're doing this, it's like you take a hit. And so you just right now we're actually building a real company. We're trying to move we're trying to push a mission now, which is like conquer your version of your mountain, like all these things that are on brand and building a community and all that stuff, which take the longer route. But I guarantee you in 5-6 years, even faster, we don't know, that our results will be 10x what we're at now because of us building a real asset. And it's the same goes for fitness, man. If you try to shortcut and take the quick hack or even like do a quick lipo surgery or something like that, you'll be right back to where you start in X number of months because you did not build the mental fortitude to maintain that new level of where you're at. And so that's kind of where we're at with business.
Man, that right there is exactly what it's all about, is being able to have that authenticity shine in every area of life. Whether it's fitness, whether it's, being there for your family, whether it's your business especially. You want to have that authenticity shine through. And like you said, everyone right now has some sort of funnel or this or that in their back pocket that they're really using as their main way to have income. But as we all know, to have a business and really manage and maintain long-term sustainability to where you have a customer base that you actually have a relationship with, it's going to require authenticity, and it's going to require, providing a certain amount of service or product that, meets a certain standard, as we said. And, that standard is really going to shine through on the person you are in every area as well, just like you said.
I agree.
I do want to touch, last but not least, I really want to help the young adults that are our age, there's tons of studies that we can look at that says, the phone's this, the phone's that, mental health is down, the obesity rate in the United States is of course off the charts. What tips do you have for them to either just get to it and develop skills, or if they're kind of having that moment of looking in the mirror and saying, I want more for my life than just this.
Look, man, we live in a time where it's like the internet and everything is such a blessing and a curse at the same time, because now you have an infinite amount of information available at your fingertips. Instead of having to go to a library to pull out a book if you wanted to find out where a certain country is, it's a quick Google search. And so that wealth of information is a blessing because you can access quickly information as quick as possible. But the curse here is now we've developed an ADD generation where everyone's just hopping on to the next thing, and it's like, that didn't work, let me hop on to the next thing, or like swipe up between Insta, and it's like everything 3-second world we live in, right? And so, you know, the phone addiction too is a big thing because like, I think the average screen time, I don't know the exact number, it's like 4 to 6 hours a day on your phone. And it's not like you're doing productive shit on there. You're scrolling through Instagram, you're scrolling through TikTok and stuff. One thing that I did at the beginning of this year was I downloaded an app called Opal. Like, it's just a random app that I found on the internet, and what it does is it blocks all usage between certain hours of the day of the apps. You can take certain breaks in between them, and that draw my screen time like crazy because you get into the habit. Again, it's all about habits, right? You're sitting eating dinner or something, you instantly scrolling through Instagram, and you're just going and going and going, and before you know it, 2 hours has passed, and you're like, bro, what the hell? It's pure unconscious. So this app just blocks everything. If you need to take a break, you can take a break for 15 minutes, but once that 15 minutes up, it locks all the apps again. If you want to take another break, it extends like the cool down period. So you just took a break, you can't unlock it for another 10 minutes or some shit.
Mm,
Whatever it is, it just keeps going up the more and more breaks you take. And so that's kind of helped me, because what you need is to break the addiction. You don't need the app forever. It's just enough to be consciously aware that, bro, you've been scrolling for 15 minutes. This could have turned for another 2 hours if you didn't get that like alert, like, yo, chill, it blocks it. You know what I mean? And so that's what I found it is. And the other thing is, like, man, people are just lost because they don't have real goals. And so when you don't have anything to do, that is when depression starts kicking in. That's when anxiety starts kicking in. Like, as bad as it sounds, like, if you look at people in like struggling countries, bro, they don't even know what depression or anxiety is. And the reason for
mm,
that is because they're so focused on survival. They're doing shit every day. It's like depression and anxiety, I don't want to like knock it at all. Definitely people are having struggles that are real. I'm just saying, like, this is more of to the extent that it is right now, and I'm such a mass scale, it's a first world issue because you're not doing shit with your life, man. It's like, if I sat here all day on a couch doing absolutely fuck all, obviously you're not going to feel fulfilled. We are, as humans, are designed for something better. We are designed for something great. And when you're not doing that, over time it starts eating away at you. And that actually happened to me with the whole anxiety and panic attack. I've never had even anxiety my entire life, or depression, until I was just sitting in, like, for 5-6 years, and internally my mind just snapped, and I was just like, it was just a release of all the years of guilt of me not doing shit. And so for a whole straight year after that, I got panic attacks every day because I was just not full. I didn't feel fulfilled at all, and it all stemmed from guilt in my health. I had no confidence in my actual health. So whenever a little thing twitched in my arm, I thought that was it. I was getting a stroke, because
mm.
it was not like I wasn't grounded in who I believed I am or who I believed I wanted to be. And so when you're just a leaf in the wind, you'll blow in any direction the wind goes. And so you need to sit down with yourself and open up a notebook and start thinking, what do I like? What do I want to do? What value can I provide to the world? And that I do that every single year. It's like I sit down in December, not in January when shit's already moving, because I found in previous years I'd start in like January 1st, But bro, everyone's moving at that point. Like
Yeah.
you're going back to work, you're doing a bunch of shit, and so you're like quickly rushing through it. So in mid-December, I spent 2 full weeks of me just sitting down and reflecting and polishing what my plan is for the next year, and pick some goals and work toward them. They don't even matter what they are. It matters that you're working towards something. It could be any goal that you don't even think is that significant, or other people might not think is that significant. But if you're just working towards something in life, I feel, at least for me, that would give you some sort of peace, some sort of clarity, some sort of purpose in life.
Yeah. It's really interesting how you kind of considered it a first world problem. But, I kind of have to second that because a lot of people are kind of using that as their crutch, honestly, for them to kind of stay where they're at, for them to kind of just, allow themselves to stay in that position. But another key thing is really being self-aware. Even for you, you decided to start asking yourself these questions. Is this all I'm just gonna freaking do for the rest of my life? Am I just gonna keep doing this? Because you already knew, I'm not gonna last like this. And not to mention you start to feel those things. And I think it's scary because rather than people starting to ask themselves these questions internally, they're kind of looking online and saying, "Oh, I see this on Instagram, so maybe if I go do this, I'll feel fulfilled. Or if I go take a trip here or do what they're doing, I might feel fulfilled." And then they go ahead and do so, and they kind of realize that wasn't the answer. But I really think doing something like 75 hard really kind of gets you back on pace and on par to kind of get back to your truest self and the true ability that we have just as human beings here on this earth, and really to then from there just shine and connect.
I agree, man. It's a lot of it is just like the things that you surround yourself with are what you become. And so by doing 75 hard, you have to read self-development books. You have to read things that are designed to push you forward in life. And so it just centers the compass in the right direction. Like it's not a pinpoint like exact location where you're going, but it's just moving the compass in the right direction. And so, you start reflecting more, you start learning more as you go, and then you'll eventually find your way. And so like everyone thinks of this big feat that people do, and like they look at it and they look at this massive mountain they have to climb. I need to lose 100 pounds. I need to grow my business to 10 mil. I need to do something that's so big. And when you're looking up, you're standing at the bottom of the mountain and you're looking all the way at the top. It looks impossible. You can't even do it. But bro, if you just took consistent one step actions day after day for 75 days, as an example, for 2 years, as an example, you will get to the top eventually. There's no way that you would not. But it's just when you look at the entire journey and you look at the destination, it is super overwhelming, like how much you have to do. But if you just look at how can I get through this day, how can I get through tomorrow, when tomorrow comes, eventually you'll end up in the spot you want to get to.
Yeah. And I really think as you go through that process, just like 75 hard does, a lot of things are unconscious. For many people, unconsciously, they really think their norm is to, watch Netflix for 2 hours a day, be on the phone for 2 hours a day. But when you put yourself through a program like 75 Hard, you start to create new unconscious norms like, hey, shit, my new norm is running or just hanging out outside and enjoying nature. More human qualities. Not only that, being in the gym, reading. So I am developing myself more than I would ever have from Netflix or just intake on social media. But I do believe once you get through that process of starting with those negative unconscious habits and kind of breaking them and building the new unconscious habits that are positive ones, from there it's really more about enjoying the journey. And I'm sure for you, once you kind of got through that first phase or two, I'm sure you started to implement things that you really started to like. And I'm sure you kind of have some variation as well to maintain that consistency.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as time goes on, right, you start developing better habits in all areas of life. And so you just become consistent in the right direction. And so that's literally all it is. It's momentum, and it's so quick to lose it too, man. Like, so for example, I went on a trip to Colombia, my first trip in a very long time, and I was there for 12 days, and I got back, and all of a sudden, man, I had to start thinking about running again. I had to
Mm.
start thinking of like, what am I going to eat now? Am I still tracking this? Like, once you, and it doesn't take long to like have it all completely fall off, like 12 days of being completely off. Once he got back, you start having to think about it again. And albeit like I hopped back on real quick, I was like, it only took a week and I was already like back in autopilot in the right direction, which the first time that would have taken like 4 or 5 months for me to get the momentum back. So the
Mm.
muscle memory is still there, the brain memory is still there, but it's just like that is why consistency is such a thing talked about so much by anyone who's accomplished anything in life, is like consistency, discipline. It's because that is the only solution. Otherwise, you have to, because the more and more things that you could mentally just put on autopilot, the more time you actually can get done. So, like, for example, when I started 75 hard, right? Those 5 or 6 tasks, whatever they were, those occupied my brain 24/7 because I had to consciously think about every single thing I was going to do and plan it. So I couldn't even enjoy any time with my friends and stuff because everything was so mentally draining. But as time went on, I'm able to do everything I was able to do before and this. And that's how you look at people like Elon Musk, who owns like 6 different companies and all these other things, albeit, yeah, he does have a great team and all that stuff. But when you look at people who are seemingly doing so much at the same exact time, and you're like, bro, how does he have the time to do this? The only reason these people have the time to do this is because they've put so many things on autopilot in their brain from doing them so consistently that they don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, the best part about that is when you start to have these real simple disciplines become on autopilot, I really think it opens a whole avenue for you to really not only achieve your dreams, but like achieve things that you never thought. Because now that you're in shape, now that you have your physical health, your mental health is where it needs to be. You're mentally going to start to think about things that shit you might have not dreamed of since you were a little kid, or things that you never even thought of before to really make possible.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, I'll tell you, like, when I was just like going through the motions and stuff, I had no aspirations for anything. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna continuously spin the wheels of what I'm spinning right now. I was not moving anywhere. It was just like surviving. And so now, like, you start to dream again. You start to think big. You start to think like, I just accomplished this. What else can I do? And as cliche as that sounds, man, it's like the more you do, the more you feel like you can accomplish, and the bigger the goals become. And because you never get to the finish line. It's not like I got to, my goal weight, and I'm like, I'm here, bro. I'm chilling now. Like, you're just like, all right, what's next? Every time I would run, I started at 5K, and then I went to 6, then I went to 7. Then at one point I was doing 13 kilometers a day every day for a whole month. And it was just like, how far can I push myself? And that's the fitness aspect side of things. There's a mental aspect side of things. How far can I push my business? How much can I learn about my business? And how much can I learn about all these things that can help grow my business?
Mm.
What can we do? You start getting more creative. It turns on a part of your brain that has been off for such a long period of time because you haven't even experienced creativity since you were in grade 5 when the teacher told you to draw some shit.
Yeah, man. I do want to touch on your business before we finish up here because this is something that's really unique. A lot of people nowadays, you can kind of find the common gimmicks, the common things that everyone's kind of pushing, but your business and the watches that your company has, man, I really got to say they're unique, but I do want to
Appreciate
give you a chance to just kind of say like how this came about and how it's doing now.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you guys the full raw truth, man. So back in 2016, I started the business with one of my boys, Ebes, in high school or university at last semester. And we started by drop shipping random Chinese watches that weren't even ours. It was just, you know, We take them off a Chinese website, put them on our site, and just run ads and sell them. And that was just because we had no money at the time. Like we could, unless you actually had some sort of funding, you have some sort of money. It's really tough to build your own product and build your own company from scratch. I mean, unless you get grant money and stuff like that. So we did that until we hit our first, 40K in profit. And as soon as we did that, we used all that money to get designs created that we actually came up with, that things that we liked. We ended up going to China, meeting our supplier, he actually ended up quitting his job and starting his own manufacturing because of the order volume we were giving him with our new designs. And so it just consistently scaled up like that. And so now where we are today, we design every single product on our site in-house. There's no drop shipping, and there's no like just random stuff that we're slapping together to make a quick buck. And even going forward, we're taking it to another direction. Is like we're no longer releasing watches that's okay, here's a different watch with a chronograph now, here's a watch with this feature, here's this color. Every collection that we ever launch going forward will have some sort of inherent meaning to it, some sort of message that we're trying to give out. And so we actually just hit 1,000,000 trees planted. We plant 10 trees for every order. We just hit 1,000,000 trees planted. So we made a limited edition collection called the 1,000,000 Tree Collection. And that is like a commemorative piece of the goal we've had to plant 1,000,000 trees since we started this company back in 2016. And so every collection going forward, whether that be watches or any other product category, it has to have an inherent message, an inherent value add to the end customer, rather than it just being a fashion piece. Because people don't buy product, they buy value. And so that is why you can look at things like Gucci, Nike, who can charge so much for what they sell because of the feeling that these brands give their customers, versus a no-name blank shirt from like a random Chinese company. With it might even be the same factory that produces the Gucci or the same factory that produces the Nike shoes. People don't buy it because it doesn't spark their internal emotional system in their brain. And so everything that we release going forward will have some sort of hidden message, not hidden message, I mean like an underlying deeper message to the product and what that should make you feel when you put this on. Similar to like the 75 hard shirt that I have. Like I bought the 75 hard shirt, it was like kind of a commemorative piece for what I did. And so whenever I put that shirt on, bro, it means so much to me, because it's not just a t-shirt that says hashtag 75 hard. To the average person it is, but it's a memory of everything I went through for the last 2 years. And we want to continuously make product that is like that for other people.
Man, that's exactly what will have your business last through recessions and through long periods of time. Rather than just having that mindset of, oh, I'm just here to exploit the money of the customers through this ad or this funnel, you're creating that relationship. And not only when your product has some authenticity and stands for something as well, but allows the customer to have pride. And I really think, that this shift is going to come where it's not just going to be about, oh, let me just one day get it from Amazon. Let me just one day do this, one day do that. I really think people are going to start to realize, especially with times getting tough, if I am going to get something, let me actually give a shit about what the brand stands for and what it stands behind. And that's a great example, because planting trees, especially here in today's world, it's a great job that you guys are doing. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on you guys. But moving forward, personally and through business and everything else, what impacts are you really looking to kind of leave on the planet here, kind of as you keep going?
So that's actually a funny point. So right now, in one of my goals in 2023, when I set out in December, which is really uncomfortable for me, to be honest, man, which is like posting all this shit I'm doing on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. Like I am not really a public guy. Like I never post. My Instagram page looks like a fucking fake bot account before I started posting this shit. But then I realized, man, like, bro, you can have such an impact on other people, and you can add value to other people's lives by showing them that where you were and being vulnerable, and showing them like you reported live from the gutter, bro, as Drake would say. And there you go. And now you're in such a different place. And so I actually have a duty in this world to provide as much value and provide as much inspiration and hope for other people. And that is now like my purpose in terms of the fitness aspect of things. But now we're even applying it to our company as well. So similar to just rather than releasing random products that look cool, we would like to release, and we will release products that add value to people's lives. And so, man, like the end goal for me here is to just make as much change in the world, inspire and help as many people in the world, and help them actually get through the challenging moments that they have, and show them like, bro, you can get out of whatever thing that you are going through right now. There is nothing in life, if as long as you're still breathing, that you cannot deal with. You know, I don't know if you're religious. I don't know if a lot of people are religious, but the thing is, like, God does not give you a cross that you can't bear. And so you got to
Mm.
be able to carry your cross and do what it takes to get through the hard times that you have.
Yes, sir, man. I really want to personally thank you, man, because I know this journey you've been on, like, I can only imagine. I know it wasn't easy, but the fact you're saying these things now, where it's your duty and purpose and responsibility to help others and, do this impact, this is really what it's all about. So I give you my commendment. And also,
Appreciate
I really am looking forward to seeing you achieve what you can, because, especially with this journey that you've done in such a short amount of time, I hope it resonates with you just as much as me from seeing your story. That there is no roof and there is no limit. And especially with the future, it's a great time to make an impact and honestly change many, many lives. So I want to thank you, and please let people know where they can find you and find your company and anything else.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok as Bishoi Khella, Bishoi, last name Khella. And my company's called Truewood. If you just Google True Wood, no E in True, mytruewood.com, you'll find my company, man.
Perfect, perfect, man. I want to thank you for coming on. This was episode 8. This is the Asking You Shall Receive podcast, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks for having me, man.